welcome to Tracxn Spotlights. I'm your host, and today we are delighted to be joined by Jack Clipsham, a senior advisor at K3 Advantage. With a career spanning decades, almost 35 years, Jack brings a wealth of experience in corporate finance and M&A. He began his journey in 1983, and since then he has successfully advised countless companies on capital raising and M&A transactions. We are excited to dive into his insights today. Jack, thank you so much for making the time to be with us today.
Bhavesh, you're very welcome, and thank you for inviting me.
So, Jack, if you can just throw some lights on your background and how you started off your journey, what made you start your career in the corporate finance industry, investment banking industry? Did anybody influence you, or it was your own choice?
Yeah, it's. I'll try and summarize this quite quickly, but if anybody's interested, please do look at my LinkedIn profile. There's a lot more detail there. But how did I get started? Well, that was probably my father's fault. He was a Midland banker, HSBC, all his life, and his father before him. So he was pushing me down the finance route anyway. But I chose not to go the banking route itself. I went the accountancy route and trained with Ernst & Young. I'm now an FCA. But I then did spend some time with one of the merchant banks. It was called Guinness Mann at the time, but that's now part of Investec. And that's where I really gained my initial corporate finance experience, mainly in sponsor roles and advisory roles and transactions. I did return to the profession, and I first became a partner with Panel Kerr Foster up in London. But I then followed my then boss to BDO, where I was an equity partner for 10 years. And I built their Southeast corporate finance team that was ultimately based out of Gatwick, where we were completing both transaction support, due diligence type transactions, and then advisory projects being M&A, corporate strategy, and strategic development. From 2004, things got really interested. And whilst I was still running that team, I became increasingly involved with China and Asia, initially bringing Asian businesses back to the London Stock Exchange to list, but that then broadened into a variety of corporate finance transactions, both inbound and outbound. And I spent my last year with BDO, year and a half, focused on East and Southeast Asia, building up air miles, traveling backwards and forwards on a regular basis. 2010, I actually moved to Mazar, and Mazar had asked me to do what I was doing for BDO, but to do it in region. And I moved to Hong Kong as head of Asia Pacific corporate finance for them, building a regional team that then worked with partners in the 16 regional offices that they had on a variety of both transaction support and advisory transactions again. 2014, I returned to the UK, initially as finance director for a medtech business that was considering an IPO, but it became clear that they were too early stage for a listing. We changed the business model, CapEx strategy, and took them through a Series C private equity fundraising. And at that time, I was also took on my first non-exec position with a name-listed healthcare group. Subsequently, I was approached to build a corporate finance team for a mid-tier firm of accountants, which I took as it presented different challenges to those that I'd seen building teams for BDO and Mazar, obviously top 10 international firms. But I built up an award-winning profitable team for them and left them in March 2024. So I'm now progressing what people call a portfolio or fractional career. And that includes acting as senior advisor to K3 Advantage, which is part of the private equity Sun-backed K3 group. I'm board advisor to an early stage industrial tech business, which is going through a fundraising at the moment. And I'm also a board advisor to an established international architects group and independent non-exec director to a company called Syndrigo, which does waste to energy and geothermal energy and is about to be readmitted to the main market of the LSE. So that brings you up to date.
Thank you so much, Jack. It was actually a journey, quite a journey. You've basically been in the Asian market as well, where you were in China, you said, and
correct.
Then
Yeah.
Okay, so you basically have a hands-on experience to the Asian industry. So what exactly was going on there, and then you basically also have a good experience in the European and the UK market as well. So you mentioned something about fractional. So is it something I've been hearing a lot of fractional CFO word? Is it something like that? Is it the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the term gets overused sometimes, but which is why there are different terms used for it: portfolio, fractional, part-time. But
Okay.
basically, a fractional career, whether it's fractional CFO, for example, will be an independent CFO, so he'll be self-employed, but he will be working with a number of different companies. So he's not 100% employed by one company. He's providing his services, his experience to a number of different companies. And in the same way, I'm now self-employed. I'm an independent advisor, but I have these cornerstones, one being K3 Advantage, and then working with different companies in different roles.
That's amazing. That's actually quite an experience, and you basically get your hands on to different verticals and different industries at the same time, and that's
Yeah,
quite adventurous. Yeah. So, Jack, what
and
are
it,
you
it
most
keeps it interesting.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, what are you most excited towards in the next 12 months in the M&A market? Because I see a lot of transactions happening in the corporate finance industry, especially in the UK market, right? So, what are you most excited about?
I think there are two levels. One is K3 Advantage. So K3 Advantage only really started a year and a half ago. It's led by a chap called Sam Phillips, who used to be PKF down in Bristol. But he
Mhm.
was brought in by the K3 group to build the K3 Advantage team with a focus on transaction support, but we're also focused on data analysis and strategy. So he started that team only a year and a half ago, and we've already bust our budgets very well. We've now got a team of about 35 people with a presence in London, Manchester, and Birmingham, and elsewhere in the UK through the wider K3 group. And yeah, it's taken time to get the balance and makeup of that team right, but we've done that, and we've done it through some really good transactions. And now the focus is on recruiting additional resource just to execute the pipeline of transactions we're getting from a whole variety of sources. And it's a variety of transactions, which again makes life interesting. I see K3 Advantage developing further and becoming really a significant influence in the transaction support and data analysis and strategy part of the market, alongside our sister companies, which are the likes of Knight, Quantuma, Tax, KR8, which offer a variety of specialist M&A and advisory services. So that expansion with the market it is today, I think there is huge opportunity, but
Correct.
it's catering to what the clients now want. And I know you probably want to get onto AI. You mentioned AI, and that's a big part of what we are now looking at and utilizing. But just to finish the question about excitement over the next 12 months, if I
Yeah.
look at it on a personal level, I've got to be honest and say I'm actually enjoying having a slightly less pressurized role than I used to when I was building and running the teams I did. But
Nice.
I am looking forward to taking on other board advisory and NED roles. But importantly for me now, it's about working with people and companies and projects that I have a real interest in, and I feel I can add value to as well from that corporate finance point of view.
That's amazing. So, but how are you seeing AI tools like Traction, creating an impact in this entire industry? So, because
Yeah,
I
the
there's a lot of changes happening in how you source deals, how you uh, do your due diligence, do your market research.
yeah. Um, there is no doubt you can't avoid AI, and I'm envious of some of the younger people just starting their careers now because they're starting their career with AI as a recognized tool, whereas some of the older people like myself are having to get used to it and understand it and have confidence in it. We're used to doing things in a particular way, so we're having to pivot, we're having to change and actually take advantage of these new tools. And there's no doubt that AI is an amazing tool. So increasingly at K3 Advantage, we are using it. So I mentioned our data analysis and strategy team, which is led by a gentleman called Caden Govan, but also our transaction support team that's doing the due diligence side of our work under James Reed Sperrin. And both of those teams are looking at ways of utilizing AI, but of course, while still ensuring the quality of the analysis and the review and double checking perhaps where some of the sources of that information are coming from. But there's no doubt AI is really useful for repetitive tasks, which allows our people to have more time focusing on the key modeling, the due diligence, the client service itself. Um, AI, it enables data-driven decisions at scale. That's the important thing. So we're getting more information, more data at scale quickly, and it reduces the project times, but improves deal execution as a result. Um, for individuals, people are spending less time on manual research. And
Yeah,
God, I
I can see.
remember the days I used to plow through all sorts of things trying to find out the information I wanted. But they can spend more time on looking at the data and analyzing it and coming up with the review points that are the key things that add value to any of the deals we do. And it, as a result, it actually improves the job satisfaction that they have and, of course, the output quality that they produce.
So
A couple of other things very quickly. AI, it can deliver significant efficiency gains and boost productivity. It means that you get better quality of service. And we would hope that we could see that being done more efficiently and therefore at better fee rates for the clients. So the clients benefit again. And the other thing is AI is becoming part of our daily lives, and it's elevated the importance of data and how we use data. So, for example, now the banks are focusing on the robustness and quality of how that data is collected, how it's processed, how it's interpreted. And as a result of using AI, there's no doubt about it, we have better, more comprehensive data to work with, and that can only improve decision making at the end of the day.
That's amazing. So it's basically not really going against you. It is basically uh, going along with you. So it's basically boosting your productivity. It's kind of making you a superhuman kind of a person, where you actually have access to a lot more information than you would have ideally without
Yeah.
these tools. And yeah, and speeds up your entire work process as well.
It does, and I think probably I'm slightly more cautious than a lot of people are about AI, because my concern is just where is AI sourcing the information from, and actually, is it relevant? Is it accurate? Is it misleading in any particular way? So I think there is no doubt it's a powerful tool, but it still needs people to sit back just momentarily and say, does this make sense? Am I getting the right conclusions from this information? What were the source documents? Can I rely on those? So you still have to go through those checks to get the confidence in the ultimate output. But yeah, it's a really powerful tool.
Great. So, Jack, what advice would you give, to people who are starting their careers in the investment banking industry or corporate finance industry? What advice would you give? I personally was very interested a couple of years ago, and I was inclined towards this industry. So, yeah,
Yeah, it's don't get. I mean, it's actually nearly 40 years in the industry now,
very
and I've loved it. It's taken me to places I never could have gone, met people I would never have otherwise met, and had some amazing experiences. So, yeah, I'd really advocate it and say it's a brilliant career for those that it's suited to. But I do think people need to do their homework, because there is so much competition for the jobs that are out there at the moment, and therefore it's really important to make sure that you build a CV that not only is has an academic career, but also has experience from work experience, internships, and the like. And that also helps. That work experience and internships can help those individuals clarify what they do want to do, but also what they don't want to do. And the reason I stress that is because if you use the term investment banking or corporate finance, both of those terms cover a multitude of roles. And it's really important that people understand what those roles are, because they have different skill sets and different personality characteristics that are demanded of the people getting involved in them. Um, just at a high level, as an example, somebody who is really good at detailed analysis and report writing and drawing conclusions from that would probably really enjoy transaction support work, but they may not enjoy or be good at doing advisory work, which requires different skill sets, and vice versa. And also, you've got different roles, whether it's investment banks, accountancy firms, private equity houses, brokers, sponsors, and others. There are lots of different roles that fall under those two titles, if you like. So it's really important for an individual to do their homework and understand what each of those roles does and the characteristics and skill sets that would be valued in those roles. That's really important.
Because I think what you said is right, because this transaction advisory, all these making reports is more of a back end job, right? And when you talk about the advisory role, it is more of a front end job where you talk to the customers in person, and then you have to basically deal with a lot of emotional waves that they go through when they're getting into the M&A transaction, and a lot of emotional intelligence is required, EQ is required. You have to manage all these emotions and then basically handle these entire transactions over the period of time. And it is not a 1-day job or 2-day job. I think it basically takes away 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, which you're in constant touch with these guys. And I think this entire to and fro of transaction makes things not so easy.
Yeah, use the dog. I think it's really difficult for people nowadays as well to really understand which route they want to go down before they actually start getting some experience in it. And certainly when I was building teams, I always used to say to people at the junior level when they first came in, spend some time doing transaction support, spend some time doing advisory work, see what the difference is, and then make your decision as to which route you want to go down. But I do appreciate there are some firms, some businesses that will basically say, right, we want somebody who wants to join our M&A team that just deals with private equity, and they get pigeonholed from day one. But that becomes really difficult if that person isn't suited to it. What do they then do?
Exactly. That makes sense. So Jack, thank you so much for your time for this call, for this interview. Right, it was amazing talking to you, and yeah, let's stay in touch.
Yeah, I'd love to. And if anybody wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, please feel free to do so.
Perfect. So
Thanks, brothers.
thank you so much.